Diogo Dalot has pulled out of international duty with an injury. Is it one of those injuries because it's international duty, or could there be a minor blow there for Manchester United? I want to talk about Benjamin Sesko. I want to talk about this media talk and media treatment of Benjamin Sesko already. I think it's a complete overreaction. Obviously, comments are coming out on him today. Obviously, he made some comments about the Premier League and how much more difficult it will be and how physical it will be. And I feel like people are just absolutely overreacting, and it's kind of annoying me. They're like, Sesko hasn't started the first 3 games, he's a flop, and it's like he hasn't started the first 3 games because he didn't have a pre-season. And look, we're going to talk about Benjamin Sesko. I want to have a genuine conversation about him and everything that's been discussed, but also we've got updates on Malacia and his exit. We've got updates that one of the goalkeepers is set to leave. Will it be Bayindir? Will it be Onana? And I thought, just because it's not really Man United related, but we got a bit of drama in regards to Ten Hag and Leverkusen, apparently what went down with him and the players, which similar things were reported at Manchester United. We will discuss that story as well. So, hello, and welcome back to Alice Talks Football. And this is your 10-minute Manchester United news. And I'm going to say discussion roundup because the transfer window is sort of closed. There is a bit of transfer news, but we're going to be having discussions around everything. So, it was reported that Diogo Dalot complained of muscle discomfort and was released by Portugal's health and performance unit. He was feeling something, he's no longer on international duty, and he's gone back to Manchester. Now, Diogo Dalot isn't one of those kind of players to pull out of international duty with an injury, especially when we're not in Europe or the Carabao Cup anymore. We're only playing 1 game a week, so I think that there's probably some genuine discomfort there. And look, I know Dalot is one of those players where sometimes he's good, sometimes he's not so good, but he's an important squad player to have. He's an important depth option. Like, he's not in our best starting 11, and he has moments in him where I'm like, but it's not a player that you want to get injured. Not that I want any player to get injured. Obviously there's players that we really, really, really don't want to get injured, and everyone else we don't want to get injured. But hopefully everything's okay with him, because he's one of those players that's good on the ball, good in build-up, good at certain aspects of the game, is a liability in certain areas. But I like Dalot as a squad player. But I want to talk about Benjamin Sesko, and not too much on what Louis Saha said, because I don't think Louis Saha said anything wrong, but in just the way that the media and people are acting around Sesko. So, Louis Saha said that Benjamin Sesko may struggle early unless Man United strengthen their midfield. So that was said by Louis Saha. And I agree with the elements of what Louis Saha has said. I think, the better midfield we have, the better we are at progressing the ball and playing the ball to the attack in better areas, which would actually result in more service for Sesko, who was starved of service until the final few minutes versus Burnley when he had 2 headers. And, he may struggle at United, he may. We're not the best environment for a young striker. I think Sesko is an improvement Højlund. I think he's further ahead than Højlund in his development. But this is a new league. This is the Premier League. It's a difficult league. Sesko said this. And yes, he may struggle. But what I don't like is the pure overreaction. It's not necessarily what Louis Saha said. And I'm not going to give them the attention and credit. But there's people online already calling Sesko a flop, already making videos I've seen on TikTok saying, I'm telling you this now, I've seen 3 games and I know Sesko's going to flop at Manchester United. I've seen media saying, oh my god, they spent 70 plus million on a striker and he's not started the first 3 games of the Premier League season. I don't get this overreaction that Sesko hasn't started a Premier League game yet and that he's going to be a flop. With 3 games into the season, he's a new signing, he's a young lad, he's getting used to the league, he's not fully fit, he didn't have a preseason, and there's this, they spent 70 million on a striker when he hasn't started their first 3 games. What have they done that for? Like, why would they spend 70 million on a striker and not start him right away? Because he's a young striker, because Cunha has been very good, and has Cunha done anything to be dropped? Even though Cunha's best position is left 10, not striker, has Cunha done anything to be dropped? No. If Mount, Cunha and Mbeumo are all playing well, and because even though we haven't had the best starts of the season, those 3 players have all played well, and this guy's not at a preseason, not fully fit, why would we drop them for Sesko, who's even himself said, he needs to get to the physical levels of the Premier League, la la la. So I just do not like the way that Sesko gets all this attention. Nobody else. None of Newcastle signings will get this attention. None of Liverpool signings will get this attention. None of Chelsea signings will get this attention. But when you sign for Man United, it's instantly, he's not started the first 3 games. He's a flop. he's not scored a goal, he's a flop. Oh, the Grimsby game is a flop. And do you know what? Sesko took the 10th penalty versus Grimsby, and it's because he had cramp and he could barely walk. He couldn't even walk to the penalty spot. Did you see his walk? And the media are talking about how much of a disgrace and how embarrassing it is that Sesko took the 10th penalty as a 70 million striker. And he's been getting ridiculed for taking the 10th penalty. He's been called a flop everywhere online. I just feel like, and it's not necessarily Man United fans, I've seen one or two Man United fans do it and overreact to him not starting, but I just feel like, yes, Sesko may not be worth the money. There's a potential that he could flop. The environment isn't great at United. But I hate this, narrative of after 3 games, everyone in the media is getting on Sesko. I'm seeing Newcastle fans saying it's a blessing in disguise missing out on Sesko, a blessing in disguise after 3 games. Sesko could go and score 20 goals in the Premier League this season, and everyone's going to look like idiots. He could go and score 5, and they will be correct. But what I'm saying is you can't judge a player off 3 games. Anthony got 3 goals in his first 3 games. Was he a good player for Manchester United? No. I do sit here and look at Cunha and Bouma, and I'm confident they're going to succeed at United, and that is also because they're Prem proven. But I don't think you can call Sesko a flop after 3 games, and I'm just fed up of this narrative that he's a flop already and this and that. He's just come in the door. Even Benjamin Sesko said he's very much looking forward to the coming period at Manchester United, also because he's getting better and faster in training sessions, and he's also progressing in his football and mentality every day. He also spoke about the Premier League, how it's a level up from the Bundesliga, and gave a good interview on that. And he's just working on getting into his best physical levels and trying to step up a level. And there's no issue with that. And I think people are overreacting, because I think people got to forget that I'm going to show you some reports that came out on Sesko a month ago. And this was 2-3 weeks ago, to be honest. Benjamin Sesko has left players and staff shocked with his incredible work ethic internally. Always the first and last to leave training, always doing hours of extra recovery, gym work, even after normal sessions, settling in fast. The coaches are happy with Sesko. He's training hard, he's working hard. He just needs to get up to a full physical level, get used to the Premier League. There's confidence inside Man United. It's not Amorim doesn't rate him because he hasn't started the first 3 games of the season. This is a guy that we know is a good player, that's a good young player, that's further ahead than Højlund's development. He's going to play the hardest position on the pitch for probably the hardest team to be a striker for, because if you don't score right away, you're going to be scrutinised at Manchester United to a different level that you'd be scrutinised at Chelsea. Dalot could go 12 games, he's obviously injured, but Dalot could go 12 games without a goal at Chelsea, and it probably won't get that much attention because of, I guess, João Pedro and stuff. But the minute Sesko goes a few games without goal at Man United, it's instant. And obviously he costs more than Dalot. I'm going to take that into account. But I feel like what is happening with Sesko and the media already, I just think it's a joke. I think it's a joke how people want to jump on someone after 3 games. And I think it's jealousy. Obviously, a lot of it is Newcastle fan-based because they're jealous that Sesko chose us. So they want him to flop. Obviously, a lot of it is Liverpool. But I just think it's silly. So, going into other news, United are expected to explore exit routes for Malacia. A final decision on his future will be left to amorim, it was reported by Rob Dawson. Now, I'm someone that is feeling sorry for Malacia. I don't think he's in the bomb squad more because of his injuries, and he's not the level, not because of attitude, not because of anything like that. He had that horrible injury that put him out for nearly 2 years. And Amorim's system doesn't suit him. He's a left back in a back 4. He's a defensive left back. He's not a wing back. And, he's had a torrid time of injuries. So I really hope that Malacia can find a move for him. It's a shame he didn't go to, was it Elche that were looking at him and got a move in Europe, because I think he still wants to play in Europe. I know he can get good money in Saudi and Turkey, but I think he'd rather play like for like a bigger club or a bigger league than obviously go for the money. But I hope that Malacia does find an exit, and they're still exploring destinations, whether it's loan, whether it's permanent. They obviously want a permanent, but they're open to a loan. In terms of other departures, it was said the arrival of Lamens has cast doubt on the future of Bayindir and Onana. One of them is set to leave for Turkey or Saudi because they're the 2 transfer windows that are still open to bring balance to Amorim's goalkeeping options. It's going to be harder to sell Onana than Bayindir. One of them is expected to go to either Turkey or Saudi because their windows are still open, but there's no guarantees. It's difficult to sell. There was an expectation at the beginning of the window that Bayindir was going to leave and search minutes ahead of the World Cup, but that didn't happen. Anyway, let's continue on into this final story. And this is kind of unrelated to Manchester United, but Bild had released a breakdown on why Ten Hag got sacked. Now, I think Ten Hag being sacked was unfair because they literally sold 7 of their best starting 11 this summer, I'm pretty sure, like Wirtz, Frimpong, I think even like So many other players have gone, Xhaka, Tar, Hincapie, just to name a few. And I think, of course, whoever was going to be at Leverkusen was going to struggle because they needed time. But apparently, Erik ten Hag, within 2 months of Leverkusen, pretty much didn't get on with anyone at the club. Not even his own staff that he brought in liked him. Apparently, he interfered with planning and only proposed players from his own agency, which is funny because he got accused of doing the same at Man United. So maybe that is something that he tried to do, bring in players from his own agency, which SEG will be the end of him because they're not all the best players. The players did not understand why doing push-ups was just as important as ball work. Apparently, he tried to do things like push-ups and stuff in training, and apparently the atmosphere within the club was cold, and the players had no idea what to do during matches. So I do feel sorry for Ten Hag. But the interesting thing was about him trying to only bring in players from SEG, and if you look at Bayer Leverkusen's recruitment, this summer was not good for them. Anyway, thank you for watching. See you next time. Bye.